This is The Seventh Guest VR, a reimagining of the original 1993 CD-ROM classic that delivers unparalleled mystery, a ton of puzzles, and some cutting-edge tech that brings this spooky mansion and its past occupants to life. This released October 19th, 2023 for the PSVR 2, PCVR, and Quest headsets for $30 US, and for this review, we checked out the PSVR 2 version of the game. It's awesome to see classic games and franchises get new life in VR, as long as they're good. So let's see how this reimagining of a 30-year-old puzzler fares in virtual reality. Hello puzzle lovers, Ryan for the VR Grid here, and before we get to it, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy this video. Now, let's get to it. I've only ever heard of The Seventh Guest in passing, as I was but a wee lad when this dropped, and this was a little before my PC gaming days. The original game is held in high regard, thanks to its, back then, state-of-the-art pre-rendered visuals, mature story, and engaging puzzles. Vertigo Games has effectively repeated that formula, offering up some impressive presentation thanks to 3D volumetric video capture, all new puzzles, and that same in-depth story. Like many mystery games, you start off not knowing who you are. Paddling a small boat, you see a mansion looming in the distance with a singular path guiding you to its front doors. You are equipped with a spirit lantern that lets you view the past. As in, wherever you shine it, its beam of light will reveal what the mansion and the items in it looked like when the place was kept up. The narrative is quickly thrust upon you once you walk into the mansion, as you begin to view events from the past, as 7 guests from a previous era were also invited to unravel some of the house's mysteries. What ensues is a fantastic mystery told in a not quite linear fashion, thanks to some choices that let the players solve rooms and puzzles in whatever order they like. It's a great way to ease some pressure, as when I did find a puzzle that perplexed me, moving on to another and coming back later on often helped me see the puzzle in a new light and find the solution that was eluding me. Standard VR first-person controls are at play, with the trigger in each hand summoning either your lantern or a map with a Ouija board type token that allows you to see what rooms are available to walk to, which rooms have been solved, as well as how many story elements and hidden coins you have found. Should you get stuck, you can refer to your Ouija board for clues or use those coins to solve the puzzle you may be stuck on, which can feel a little cheap, but for those that care more about the story, it's a great way to keep it flowing. You can play this using teleport, smooth locomotion, or a mixture of both, with optional blinders as well as seated or standing play, though I found the seated play to have me too short for some sections of the game, and I think a height slider could be used here to help immerse the players as opposed to making them too short, or in some cases, too tall. Navigating the mansion is easy enough, but it's those puzzles where things get tricky, as the ones in here I found to be relatively unique, and it's sometimes confusing. With that said, I rarely got stuck, and while some puzzles did hold me for a fair time, they never felt impossible. While I found most of the puzzles to be quite clever and engaging, a few require some pretty careful motions or finger poking, and I often ended up hitting neighboring buttons or moving something I didn't mean to. This made some puzzles rather frustrating, especially the jewel puzzles, where my hands often collided with nearby jewels, ruining my efforts and forcing unintended restarts of that puzzle. For those looking for larger environmental puzzles, The Seventh Guest opts instead for smaller scale conundrums, with each room containing a few smaller puzzles, akin to older point-and-click style games, of which the original was. Beyond these smaller scale puzzles and erratic collision detection is one of the better traditional puzzle games I have played in VR, made all the better by the top-notch presentation. Now, I'm not going to say this is the best looking VR game I've ever played, but it's pretty good, outside of some simple textures, minor pop-in, and some underwhelming lighting effects on the puzzles. What is impressive though, is the attention to detail on just about every element in the house, as it does look and feel like a gothic haunted mansion. Where it may be lacking in realism, it makes up for in spectacle thanks to that spirit lantern that reveals the past. I loved shining that lantern on every painting, wall, and item I could, just to see the glamour of the past. The second most impressive thing is the 3D capturing of all the actors. I've seen this sort of tech used in other VR titles, but never to this effect, as usually when people are captured in 3D, the titles I had played had me stationary, only viewing a scene from a singular angle, but in The Seventh Guest, you can freely walk around any cinematic to view however you please. It's not perfect, as some of the actors' features and textures can look a little off for a brief second or two, but given the ethereal nature of these scenes, I quickly moved past any visual hiccups and just enjoyed seeing these actors fully realized in VR. Other elements that go a long way to adding to the realism are the reflections on many shiny surfaces, as well as smaller details like splashes in a pot or the rain falling on all the windows. Any issues I have with the presentation are minor at worst, with the game exuding a quality and care we need to see more of. With a sense of unease pervading the mansion, the music can be fairly subdued at times, but is always there to mitigate the silence of this abandoned house, perfectly fitting into whichever setting you find yourself in, and getting more intense during the more dramatic scenes. The actors all do a wonderful job at their respective performances, and while the acting does feel more like it's from a stage play than a film, given the era this takes place in, I thought it fit wonderfully with the sometimes over-the-top story.
And what about the rumors?
Eleanor, they're just that. They're rumors. Okay? Now shape up. We need to make a good first impression.
Stauf has spent his fortune wisely. Never mind the smell.
Bit dreary in here, don't you think?
I will say that the first half of the game's story felt a little loose and hard to follow, but once I reached the halfway point, things took a dramatic turn, and I really started to enjoy the tale being told. You can touch almost every item in the house, each eliciting a proper sound should you bang or drop it, and of course, along with the cleverly crafted puzzles, are appropriate sounds to further immerse you. It should be noted that at the time of this review, there didn't appear to be any haptics in use on the PSVR 2 version, which does feel like an odd exclusion from a game with so much grabbing and holding. I really enjoyed the 7th Guest VR, and in checking out footage from the original game, I'd have to say that this exceeds that 30-year-old title in every way. I think fans of the original will really appreciate this new interpretation of the game, and for those like myself who aren't really familiar with that classic version, then you just get to enjoy a great and lengthy puzzler, as this took me close to 8 hours to get through. This is one of the better VR puzzlers out there, and well worth the asking price, delivering a satisfying story and engaging puzzles, all in a unique yet familiar package. I'm going to give the 7th Guest for the PSVR 2 an 8 out of 10. This one definitely got its hooks in me. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to do all the YouTube things to help us out. And that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching.